Have a seat on your porcelain throne. It's time to talk some shit on the Powell Movement.
Welcome to the Powell Movement. I'm your host, Mike Powell, and while I want to get my intros back to what they used to be, I don't even remember what that was. For 3 years, I've been dealing with so much heavy shit, and I thought by now I'd be able to get a little back to normal. But grief is a crazy thing. It's like 1 minute I'm planning on going into the office to sell stickers at diecutstickers.com, and then on my way out the door, I'll get a call from someone requesting a death certificate or some bullshit like that for some loose end that I needed to tie up for Ange. And then I'll start crying, and boom, I don't go into work. I mean, I haven't been to the office since March, and I really need to start going. But I also need to prioritize me a little bit, and if staying home makes me feel better, so be it. I'm still working, and I need you to buy stickers for me. And to do that, you can email me at mike.powell@diecutstickers.com. I really appreciate that. I will say, the hardest part about all of this, outside of losing my partner, my best friend, my lover, you know, my everything, is the loneliness. Now that it's back to school, my house is so quiet, and I find myself talking to Ange all the time. But since she's dead, she doesn't say anything back to me. Oh, my life is just so sad, and I'm still crying for hours each day, and who knows how long that's gonna last. I can't make it stop. But no matter how I feel, I'm still working 2 jobs, and one is this podcast, which I love doing. And this week, it's most likely my last bike episode of the season. And Damon Iwanaga was born to race motorcycles, and he's got a name that I just love saying. But he ended up becoming a pro mountain biker. And I could spoil it by saying more about his life and times, but I won't. What I will say is this: Damon rides for Outdoor Research, and Outdoor Research sponsors this podcast. And this week, OR dropped their fall collection, and everyone should go to their website and check it out. So it's the perfect week to have Damon on the show, and he's a really fun guest. Before we get into it, I want to ask you to tell a friend about the show because it really does help the show grow. I'm not some famous athlete with a built-in audience, so I've had to build this thing organically over the years, and I've done so to the tune of about 10,000 people per week. And the reason people keep coming back is because I interview people better than anybody else in snow and beyond. And that's because I put in the work every week to get you a great interview. I hate to sound cocky about what I do, but I really do put in the effort to make sure you get a great interview, and I hope you appreciate that. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. I thank you for listening each week, and I want to ask you to please support the brands that make this thing happen. They are Outdoor Research, Elan Skis, Stanley, Best Day Brewing, and Liquid Force. Now, it's time to chat with Damon Iwanaga. You used to have dreadlocks. I've never had them. But when you do have dreadlocks, do people ever grab them or touch them or do anything weird to your dreads?
Yeah, I had multiple occasions where people wanted to touch them. I got a lot of compliments, and probably the worst thing was being at clubs or bars, and I had my hair down and have dudes come up and try to dance up on me, and then I turn around and yo.
I would think that a lot of people would walk up and ask you about weed. Hey man, do you know where to get weed? Because that's the universal sign of Jah Rastafari. That dude knows where to get weed.
Oh, dude, for sure. It's like a shining light. And that happened multiple times where I'm literally with my family or something, and random spots, not even at a concert or something. And dude would just come up and be like, yo, you know where to get some weed at? And I'm like, Yep. I look like I would be the guy that knows where to get weed.
That's so funny.
And unfortunately, I didn't really come through most of the time, but yeah.
Fair enough. And then did it also make you a target? Would cops and teachers and parents and everyone pretty much profile you?
I'd say it didn't go well with the ladies for the most part. I think it was a hit or miss there. Either the girls loved it or hated it.
I guess you'd probably get a lot of hippie chicks and patchouli smelling girls.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm definitely not a Tahoe hippie that was super into it.
You never had beads in your dreads?
I did have beads, for sure. I actually made one of my homies, he was a glass blowing artist, and my homie Cody that I grew up with going to high school, and yeah, he helped me make a bead one time, and that was the only one. It actually hit me in the tooth a couple of times, pretty hard, just swinging around. So I was like, I got to get rid of this thing.
Yeah, man, you don't want to break a tooth.
Yeah.
And then hiding things in your dreads, were you able to do that at all?
Dude, I never really did that. I always like had that fantasy of doing it, but I would find some unfortunate things in there. Like I remember finding definitely like some bugs here and there.
Yeah, it's gross.
Found like a dead bee.
Like,
But honestly, they weren't as dirty as you would think. Like everyone's always like, "Oh, dude, those got to be nasty." Like they hear of Bob Marley and like how he had like however many varieties of like lice or mold or whatever. But yeah, they really weren't that dirty. So
I never
yeah,
knew that about Bob Marley. I guess when you have dreadlocks, you know all the dreadlock lore and stories, but when you don't, you
yeah,
maybe don't hear them.
right, for sure. I got them probably like 2016, maybe. Damn, I can't even remember. I had them for a long time, but I always like wanted them as a kid because I feel like that's kind of like a weird younger boy's fantasy. Like you see dreads, you're like, dude, I want some dreads, you know? But I just like grew up my hair and it like my hair is so thick and coarse and it was just like this huge mop. And so I was like, I'll just like do a couple dreads. And yeah, like my whole head wasn't dreaded, just like the back half. And then the front was just normal hair. So when I kind of put it up, you like kind of could tell, but it wasn't full on like Rasta dreadhead looking.
Dread mullet, it sounds like, but not really.
Yeah,
'Cause you have
kind of.
sides.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. So it was a little mixture there.
So when they become part of your identity, I mean, I had long hair before too, but I mean, not like you, where it was like people like looked at you and that's how you could hear your name and everybody would think about dreadlocks. What made you want to cut them off when it was like part of your image and identity and everything?
I kind of like didn't really ever, I mean, I guess I knew it was like part of my identity, but I didn't realize how big of an impact it was, like at least in the mountain bike world, because a lot of the time, like, and this is like a funny thing my buddy Josh and I were just talking about, like when you have long hair and you put it up all the time, because I would just have like this crazy man bun,
Cool.
which I hated it being called a man bun. I called it a top knot.
Okay.
It was more like Japanese warrior, you know?
Fair. Well, that's way cooler than a man bun.
Yeah. But yeah, you have it up all the time and you're like, do I even like having long hair, or is it just more that it's like kind of like an identifier when it's down? And so when I was riding, it was flowing out my helmet, and I mean anyone could spot me out, from a mile away. So yeah, I didn't really realize that until I cut them, that so many people like used it to identify me.
It was like a marketing feature of you.
Dude, totally. Yeah, it was like my brand.
Yeah. I mean, whatever, but I mean, you established your brand with that, and that's really all you needed to do because it didn't really hurt you after you cut them off. That's enough really talking about your hair. We're going to talk about your life and times, and you're born and raised in the garlic capital of the world, Gilroy, California. You were born to be on two wheels. Your dad was a professional flat track racer. What does that mean? Did he like earn a living racing motorcycles?
Yeah. So he was landscaper, I'd say, by day.
Okay.
But he did earn a living. He had a couple rad sponsors backing him, but unfortunately, he was one of the like older dudes on the circuit. He didn't start racing until he was like 16, so he was traveling like probably at the peak of his career, like latter 20s to mid 30s.
Okay.
And what's funny is I can't remember if it was his 30th or 35th birthday, or no, he was around that age, but he comes home from work one day and all his friends are at the house, and there's this huge party going on, and he's like, this is awesome, like what's going on? And my mom's like, oh, this is your retirement party. And he looks at her and is like, I'm not done racing, and continued to race, which also probably continued to lead to their divorce, unfortunately. But he did what he wanted, and he raced until probably mid 30s to latter 30s. But unfortunately, we were so young, I didn't really get to go to many of his races. And yeah, it was kind of just like tapered off in a mess at the end. But yeah.
Well, you eventually get into it. You have two sisters, I believe, and your family is like the Japanese American dream at first. It splits up later. We don't need to talk about it splitting up. That's sad for another podcast.
Oh no, it's all good, dude. It's part of life.
Yeah, totally. We'll talk about other bad stuff in life, but yeah, whatever. But by 8, you're like in an expert class in 50cc, 65cc, and 80cc. Are you like the prodigy kid winning every race you did and had like a room full of medals really young?
I don't know. I wasn't quite the prodigy. There was definitely a couple kids out there that were more, I don't know, that were definitely faster. But yeah, it was such a weird thing because in flat track, the bikes are lowered, so they're a bit smaller. And I wasn't riding like a 50 and a 65 and an 80 at the same time, but like pretty close. I was like super big on my 50 and then like really tiny on my 80. But yeah, definitely like had the shop full of trophies, which is cool. And yeah, it was just kind of like following my dad's footsteps of trying to be, yeah, professional flat tracker. But I wouldn't say it didn't work out, but
Well, we'll talk about it. Well, that's way ahead of the game with flat track. But did your dad push you at all, or were you self-motivated into wanting to be at the track all the time and just winning?
Dude, my dad was awesome with that. Like, he wasn't the crazy, like, mini, T-ball dad that was like yelling at their kids all the time.
Yep.
He definitely gave me the right support. But yeah, it was definitely like my stoke that drove me to want to continue racing and, give it my all. But yeah, he grew up racing. So I grew up with Tyler Bereman.
Oh, yeah.
And have known him since I was like probably like 4 or 5. And that was because our dads raced flat track together and some other friends that we're all, kind of family close there. But Tyler grew up racing moto. So he would come race some flat track races with me, and I'd go try to do some motocross races, which were horrendous, like so bad. Yeah, I was just used to hard packed circle tracks, and you get thrown on a moto track and it's like this whole different world. But yeah, saw him racing moto and I was like, dude, this is way cooler than racing flat track. So made the switch when I was like 9-ish, I think.
Okay. So you do that for a few years in the moto world, and then I think you have a big injury when you're 13. Like you broke your back when you're really young. Is that true, or am I getting bad information?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think I was 13 because I was 8th grade, junior high. Finally convinced my mom to let me do the whole homeschool program, like all the fast moto kids, they were homeschooled, and that was like my dream as a kid.
So you wanted, like,
And
that's all you wanted in life was moto, and you were going to do homeschooling, you were going to spend the rest of the time at the track, and you were going to be the guy.
dude, that was not even just a dream. It was like in my head that's what it was. Like I just was waiting for the chance to turn pro, become of age, and there was no other option, in life and in my mind. But which was tough for my mom because she was a school teacher, and so education, is big in my family, and so it was tough to get her to believe in me, I guess you could say, and yeah, convince her that there is, a career here possibly. And yeah, so broke my back and was homeschooling, and it was not like a dark time, but it wasn't good. I was this 13-year-old kid just at home with a broken back, no one to hang out with. Thankfully, I had my grandma on my dad's side, and she was like my best friend at the time. So we would hang out all the time, but yeah, not good for the social part of life. So
Yeah,
I went back to 8th grade.
and that's an important time. So you break your back there, and I would think you probably come back pretty quickly because your bones are made of rubber back then, and it kind of fixes itself. I'm sure it's not easy. Speaking of broken backs, what'd you do to yourself in May at Cam's event, and how are you now in that whole thing?
Dude, I was just trying to keep up with the young kids. And when you're 32, definitely it's not the right thing to do, I'd say. But I was stoked. I was feeling good riding. And yeah, at Zink's Invitational, I'm kind of like his right hand man. So just making sure, everything's going according to plan and this and that. And that morning was the last day of the event. And I started off I shuttled back like 4 people in the side by side.
Okay.
And I was like, I'll get these homies back there because they didn't have, it's like, I don't know, 15-minute walk or whatever, following the ridge line to the back part of his property. And other people saw that I started shuttling them. And when I got back, there was a line of people. And I was like, well, like this is kind of my job to take care of the riders, not to be really like a main rider.
Yeah, for sure.
I guess to say. So
you're like event infrastructure, and you ride if you can.
Exactly. And I'm totally okay with that.
That's your role.
That. Yeah, there's nothing better than like putting this event together or helping put it together and seeing people stoked at it. So yeah, started shuttling everyone. By the time I got to like the last person at the front of the property, it's like mid-session in the back, and I get back there and I'm just like fired up, ready to ride, and I'm trying to like tee up all the lines, all the jumps first go. and there's this step down that it's a pretty, I don't know, it's just super blind, kind of weird step down, and I've wanted to flip it for the past couple years, and yeah, I was just feeling good, and I think I was talking to Luke Whitlock, and I was like, dude, I'm just gonna drop in and like be a boss, first tee, flip it, and it's gonna be sick, you know?
Yeah.
And I'd hit the jump a couple days before, thought I had the right speed, but it was just running a bit slower that day. Kind of had a squirrely start to the whole line anyways, which probably should have been the sign, but I was just feeling it, man. And I could see it. I visioned it, and I was like, it's going to be chill. Like, I know how hard to pull. I know the speed. And yeah, unfortunately, just went a little too slow. I think if I had like 3 more feet, I could have like rode it out, but also pulled a little too light, and yeah, unfortunately just front wheel decked the landing and kind of tomahawked down this like 75-foot landing, and that was that. Broke my collarbone, T12, and got up, and I already had a plate in it, and I was like, this thing's bent, I can feel it, I know my collarbone's broken, but didn't even think about my back being broken until I got to the hospital. And you're there in the ER for like 3 hours.
Yeah.
And she comes back in. She's like, hey, you fractured one of your vertebrae. And I was like, there's no way. Like, zero pain. Didn't, like, even through the recovery, had zero pain through the whole thing. And she's like, well, we got the x-rays right here that show it. And I was like, well, you can't really argue that, So, yeah, unfortunate setback.
All right. Well, it sounds like there wasn't a lot of pain involved with the back, and it really is not affecting your motion. So that's really good. We'll get back to you being really good as a flat track when you were younger. Do you start getting sponsors like you would in the mountain bike world when you're really good? Or how does it work over in the flat track thing?
Yeah. I mean, thankfully, my dad, he kind of learned the ropes already. And he was sponsored by Fox Racing, which was in Morgan Hill. That's like 5 minutes away from Gilroy. So that was cool, just having that kind of like almost hometown company to ride for. And also everyone knows of Fox,
They're like the coolest thing in the game. Did you get to go there and like go to the warehouse and pick out stuff? Was it like a deal like that?
Dude, it was pretty close. Like, didn't just get to like walk in and have this like dreamy shopping spree, but like we would go to the headquarters and like pick up our boxes of stuff. And my dad knew a couple like the right people that like put our last name on the jerseys and everything. So got some pretty special treatment there. That was, yeah, not super common, but really rad as a 8-year-old,
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be so sick. I'm guessing too that doesn't get to your head. Like where some kids, they could get all cocky. Are you kind of more reserved, or how are you with that?
That was a huge thing, like just of my mom and my dad to like never be cocky, and like regardless any aspect of life, like hanging out with friends at school, whatever, just always being respectful, and yeah, just not letting that type of stuff get to your head. But also you're like 8 years old and you don't even really know like what being cocky is quite yet,
Yeah.
So you're just kind of this little kid that thinks it's like Christmas Day multiple times of the year. And yeah, they just tried their best to make sure we're thankful and know that if we weren't getting it from a sponsor, how much they'd be paying for it. And yeah, they did a good job because yeah, my sisters are awesome and have always, cherished those types of things even till now. So,
And you guys are Japanese, right? So I don't know of many cocky Japanese people because they're usually brought up in a more reserved, respectful environment.
totally. Yeah, for sure. For the most part. Or you'll meet some like crazy cocky Japanese people, which is like really funny.
Like one or the other, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, not like very reserved, not like kind of classic what you would think of, because I was a fourth generation, and like my grandpa, he was in internment camps.
Huh.
And then there's my mom's generation, then us. So we had quite the time in the mainlands already.
It's time for my first sponsor break, and I'm going to start out with Liquid Force. And not only are they back supporting the podcast, but this summer, they're bringing back the most important party and event in wakeboarding. That's right, Brostock is back, and the contest features the best riders in the world. But you know what's more fun than watching the pros ride? Riding with them. And you can ride with the Liquid Force pros like Daniel Grant, Claudia Pagini, and Gunther Oka at a local lake or cable park near you at their Ride with the Pro Tour. And while Liquid Force is doing all these great things to build community on the water, they're also on the forefront of product innovation. And if you're a foil frother, You're going to want to check out the new Fuselock foil system. Wake surfers are going to love the all-new Ace and Synchro offerings. And the 2025 line features fresh boards, rad graphics, and more comp vest colorways than ever before. Park to boat to foil, Liquid Force has gear for every rider type, whether it's boat, cable, foil, or surf. To find out more about the events and the products, head on over to liquidforce.com. And when you see something you like, put it in your cart, and when you check out, enter the code POWELL15, that's all caps with no spaces, and you will save 15% off your order. Liquid Force. Feel the pull. Next up, it's Elan Skis. And Elan doesn't need to support this podcast in the summertime. I've said that every summer. But they do it because they understand the importance of cultivating the stories that make the snow industry what it is. But if you haven't noticed, while they've always been big in Europe, Elan has built a growing cult following here in the States. It all started with the still thriving ripstick revolution that made skiing easier and more fun for anyone that tried them. That same idea, easier and more fun, is what they delivered to their Playmaker series of twin tips. How does Elan deliver a better ski experience? Well, it's all about using the best materials known to man. And that's no joke. This is the same Elan that's known for building award-winning luxury yachts. So they never cut corners. And the fit and finish is better than anything else on the ski wall. Seriously, if you pick one up and you look at the edges and you see those seams of glue on all the different skis, look at Elan's and you're going to see a seamless pairing because they do take that additional time to pay that attention to detail, and it's awesome. And it makes everyone feel like they're making pro-level turns. And that's what skiing is all about, that feeling. So remember, before you buy your next pair of skis, demo a pair of Elan's, or just head on over to elanskis.com, pick a pair, and elevate your skiing experience. My final sponsor this round is Best Day Brewing. And while I love the taste of a good beer, I don't always need the alcohol. I mean, my life revolves around driving my kid places, running errands, interviewing people, managing my family, and all of these things I do better when I don't have a head full of alcohol. That's where Best Day comes in. These days, if I'm not partying, I'm still having beers, and those beers are from the award-winning Best Day Brewery. And there are a lot of NA beers out there right now, but none taste as good as Best Day. I love the hazy IPA, the Kolsch that you can get on all Alaska airline flights, and everyone seems to like the Electro Lime Cerveza. I could go on and on as they have so many flavors, and I love them all. The beauty of Best Day is that they average about 60 calories and they won't get you in trouble. And pro tip, if you're partying, try to mix in a Best Day for every alcoholic beverage you have, and it will extend your night. It does it for me, and it keeps me from doing anything stupid. To have your best day or night ever, head on over to bestdaybrewing.com. If you make that order over $50, we'll also throw in free shipping. Those are my sponsors. Now let's jump back into the podcast. As you kind of move up in your whole biking world, it's like you bump up classes from 125 or whatever to 250, 250 to 450. You eventually get yourself to the intermediate class, and it seems like you go from intermediate to highest amateur and then on to pro if you're going to make it in there. And by the time you get to 450 and you're intermediate, there's still a long way to go. But did it still feel like you were on your way?
You know, unfortunately it didn't. And that's what, my dad always made it clear. There is, at the time, you could turn professional at 16, and which I'm pretty sure now it's 18 for motocross, unless you're Deegan and have a factory ride as an amateur. But it was always clear that from 12 to 16, that was the time to put in the work and make sure that when you're getting close to the age of turning pro that you're ready for that. And yeah, unfortunately I had so many injuries, and by the time I was 16 it was just pretty clear to hang it up. Being realistic, you could keep trying, but that kind of, I don't know, I think I was ready to be done because I knew I was pretty far off pace at that point.
Well, you had gotten hurt a bunch your last 2 years in high school, it seemed like. And when you're hurt, I'm sure everybody's just getting faster and you're kind of being left in the dirt recovering.
Yeah. And that's, the worst part of injuries. And especially nowadays watching on social media, which thankfully we didn't really have back then. But yeah, you're out for 3 months and the kid that you've been battling with is now 3 months better than you and you're set back 2 steps, type of thing. And unfortunately, I was having a couple injuries per year, which, were just major, major setbacks. And mostly because of just your fitness as well, your speed might still be there, but you just lost, however many 3 months of training or 6 months or having back-to-back injuries. So it was, yeah, like I was saying, pretty clear that it was time to just hang it up. And I was okay. I was okay with it. My dad always taught me just from a young age, it's like a business, and it was easy to see, hard to swallow, but I don't know, man, moto's an expensive sport to keep doing and keep asking your parents for the money to do it. And thankfully they gave me the time that I had. But yeah, it was probably the smarter decision to just move on to the next thing.
I mean, do you ever feel guilty because it costs them 20 grand a year to get you on the road or whatever?
Oh, dude, fully, man. Like, I wouldn't say guilty, but I have more respect for them, because you don't think about that as a kid, or maybe you do, but you don't really know what that means until you get to your, older ages of life where you're really taking care of all the bills and everything in your own life, and then having to fork out those thousands of dollars for your kid. And I wasn't even the only one doing something. Like, my middle sister was a really good soccer player and she was doing traveling soccer. And then my oldest sister was a really good dancer, so she was doing traveling dance competitions, and all equally take a lot of time out of anyone's life, part of the family. So yeah, most weekends we were gone, either dance recital, soccer tournament, moto race, or my mom was doing that with them and my dad was doing that with me. And yeah, so huge respect for all parents, but yeah, especially mine, for letting us do that and kind of, I guess, trial the dream.
And so with the dreams kind of ending for you, but you were the dude that, like, if anybody asks what's Damon doing, he's thinking about moto or he's at the track or he's the moto guy. When that's taken away from you or it becomes just a hobby or whatever, does it mess with your self-confidence at all?
Dude, it's funny because I think I quit racing when I was 18 because I was like one of the older kids in high school that turned 18 at the beginning of the year and was still trying to give it. And throughout my senior year of high school is when I called it and, hung it up. And my mom was always like, "You're going to college, this and that, blah, blah." And in my mind, since I was, 10 years old, I was never going to college because I was going to be a professional motocross racer.
Yeah.
And so there was that reality check of her being like, "Well, you don't race anymore, so you're going to college." And I was like, "Well, damn, yeah, like you're right. We're going to at least community college." So I think I did a year of community college in Gilroy.
Yep.
And then I went to Tahoe with my buddy Cody to see our homie Alex that we grew up in high school with. And they were big mountain bikers. Like, their parents were huge mountain bikers. They worked for Fox Suspension or like something within the mountain bike industry. So it was cool having them as friends because I didn't have many moto friends, but the closest to, was my mountain bike homies, and had a big squad back then. So that was really cool. But yeah, we came up here on like winter break up to Tahoe, and I just like immediately fell in love. And Alex was like, "Dude, you should move up, blah, blah, blah." And I was like, "No, there's no way." And then I got home and was like, "You know what? I think I could actually like figure it out. There's a community college right in Truckee. That's where I first moved to." And convinced my mom that I would do my schooling up there, which I gave it my best. I gave it a good try. But yeah, I did a couple years at Sierra Nevada, and that kind of, I don't know, just school is not for me, man. But yeah, led me into this whole mountain bike world that we're in today.
All right.
I don't know, whatever device that we're using, it didn't save and the batteries died.
Oh.
And we like did almost the whole interview, which was like 45 minutes. And we go to like wrap it up and homie's just like, "Dude, we don't have any of that."
Yeah, oh, that sucks so bad. I mean, you were telling that whole story and I saw it and it was just like, oh my God, I can't wait till he's done the story so I can just stop him and save it. I'm going to
Yeah.
jump right back into it. So you get to Tahoe, you've convinced your parents to let you go there, and you work at the Village Ski Loft for a long time. That's a legendary shop, I feel like, up there. Had you been a snowboarder before you got up to Tahoe, or was that something that you picked up when you got there?
I mean, dude, we were the classic like go, because Tahoe from Gilroy is like 4.5 hours.
Okay.
So either you go to like Bear Valley or Tahoe. So we were the, classic go to the snow once, maybe twice a year, family, and snowboard. And I think I first started to ski like most kids, and then switched to snowboarding when I was like 8 or something. And yeah, just did it very, very lightly. But yeah, moved up here, and I didn't work at the ski loft actually for a couple of years after moving up here. I worked at my first job up here was working at Starbucks
Okay.
at Squaw Valley, now Palisades.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, was a barista at Squaw Valley, and actually it was really sick. They had, I don't know, like they had one of their stores that was like mid mountain, and they had a ski up window that you can literally ski up to on your board or your skis, order a drink, grab it, and like go chill mountainside.
Did you get to work at the Mid Mountain Station?
Yeah, so I got to work there quite a bit, which was a bit better.
I mean, that's like a
than
dream
doing
job. I mean, like if you're going to be a lifty or you're going to do this or that, you might as well be the Starbucks person.
Dude, for sure. Yeah, I was like never down to be a lifty. It was just like I'm not going to stand outside in the cold and whatever, and yeah, bump chairs.
Okay.
So
So,
I guess that was the next best thing.
and then you eventually graduate up when you get your job at the shop.
Yeah, so was working there for, I think I just did that for a season at Starbucks, and then kind of going backwards. But my oldest sister, she got me into ceramics like my freshman year of high school.
Okay.
And so, in my head back in high school, I needed to do what do they call it?
Electives?
Electives. Yeah, yeah, sorry.
Good.
So I needed to choose an elective. And she's like, you should do ceramics. Like you're creative and artsy. And I was like, ceramics is for girls. Like I'm not doing ceramics.
Yeah.
And funny enough, fall in love with it. End up taking ceramics every year of high school. And that teacher actually like played a huge role in my life of just how I look at life, I guess. Just not having to follow like the standard go to college, get a job right out of college, and kind of follow that path, which maybe wasn't the best thing, but when you're a kid in high school, like that's what you think and is to do good in high school, go to college, try to get in the best one as you can, which usually ends up leading to a lot of debt and whatever, and maybe even a job that you hate getting out of college. So yeah, he opened my mind to just being, I don't know, more passionate about whatever and just follow that dream, type of thing. And I'm super grateful to have had my sister make me choose ceramics because yeah, it really was a life changing thing. But I guess fast forwarding to yeah, my second job up in Tahoe, I worked at a ceramic studio. So I was teaching ceramics and just doing retail and this and that and whatever the studio entailed. But did that for a couple of years and then got to the ski loft.
All right. Well, I know how I'm going to transition this here. So that teacher was such a big influence on you that kind of got you working in the ceramics thing. And there's a whole movie about that. I think Ghost, you should totally see it. It's so romantic. And there's a scene where they're doing ceramics. And if you have a girlfriend or a wife or anything, you can recreate that scene. It would be awesome. But anyway, another influential person in your life is Mike Sylvestri. And he had a huge impact on how he kind of pointed you in the right direction in the bike world. What kind of influence did that guy have on you?
No, dude, Mikey played such a big role. And it was just funny because it was such a natural or like organic friendship. He was friends with my homie Alex that I first moved up to Tahoe with, and come to find out that Mikey used to race moto, and I think he's like 2 years older than I am. So we like growing up, our childhoods were like pretty similar in regards to like racing moto and racing similar like organizations.
You knew the
And
same people, kind of shared
yeah,
like same stuff.
yeah. But fast forward in his life, like when we met, he was like one of the top North American downhill racers, racing for Evil at the time. And we just kind of were homies. Like it wasn't even really because of bikes. It was just he was homies with my buddy Alex, and we all kicked it. And at the time, Alex and I couldn't even afford bikes, so he had this like thrift store rigid mountain bike, and I was riding an extra small women's hot rock or hard rock or something.
Okay.
And those were just like that's all we had. We had no money, and thankfully we had those bikes and like a little bit of land in our backyard, so we made these little rut tracks and pump tracks, and eventually like started ripping like a lot of the downhill trails just around like North Star and whatnot.
On your girl's
And
bike?
Yeah, dude, it was bad. I've got some funny old footage of that. But dude, we were ripping it, and people would just be like, "Dude, who the hell are these guys? Like, no helmets, like
Just these
no
yahoos,
packs,
right?
riding these just shitty bikes, you know?" And so it was funny because Mikey, he's this factory evil rider, and he would like bring his downhill bike, but eventually he started bringing his mom's like piece of shit mountain bike, and we would just rip shit bikes, and like that was our life, and it was so sick, and like honestly, some of the best times I've had on two wheels because we just didn't care, that was like that's all we had.
Was it almost like a joke being on the girl's bike? Like, are you wearing like stupid jean shorts and stuff like that too?
Dude, not even. Like it was just the only bike I could get my hands on, which it was my roommate's bike, and thankfully he didn't care that I was riding it. I mean, it didn't fit him either. It was kind of just like his bar hopping bike, but that was the only thing we could afford. So like, yeah, it was a joke because, like I was saying, Alex, he grew up in a huge mountain bike family, and when we were in high school, he would have like the nicest Santa Cruz mountain bikes, and I had some nicer mountain bikes too, but all funded by our parents. And once we were off that bill, then we're off that tab, it was up to us. So yeah, we just got whatever we could get our hands on, and yeah, knew it was silly, but also like that was our ride. So yeah, fast forward, finally save up and get a specialized status as my first mountain bike. And Alex, he ended up getting a bike from his dad, I think. So now we were on the right path and still just, having fun with it. And Mikey kind of like showed me the ropes of like downhill racing and then just kind of like jumping and whatever the kind of free ride side of it. But he was, racing pretty seriously at the time. And so naturally coming from moto, I was like, well, I want to race downhill and maybe I could become a professional downhill racer, and I'm like 21 at the time.
But you already felt like you had that ability where you're like, man, there actually might be a path to this bike thing.
Kinda, I picked it up pretty quickly.
Because it's rare for
It's
anybody to go at 20 years old and become a pro in a sport that they didn't
right.
do.
Yeah,
Like your
totally.
dad did that too, like with flat track, but he was a little bit younger.
Yeah. So yeah, he, had a late start to racing flat track and yeah, picked it up pretty quick and kind of same thing, like my dad, he grew up riding, but didn't have the means to be like a flat track racer.
Yeah.
And, I grew up riding bicycles and kind of always had that under my belt, but, never was like very serious about it, just more a thing to like hang out with the boys, go to the skate park, go mountain bike if one of them would let me borrow one of theirs type of thing. But yeah, it transitioned pretty easily. Some of the like little things going from a moto to a mountain bike are very drastic.
I would think you'd do really great on the wide open courses, and then the technical shit would give you problems.
Dude, that's what it was. Like I remember the first time hitting like a drop and trying to hop over like some logs and roots, and I was just like such a kook. I remember like going over the bars so many times, just like could not figure it out. And it's like those little things. It's like, yeah, you're on two wheels with handlebars, but on a moto, you don't hit drops, or like especially slow, steep drops or whatever, or try to hop over logs unless like you're some enduro rider. So yeah, there was a brutal learning curve on that side of things.
But there's a learning curve, but everything happens so fast for you. It's like you get to Tahoe in what, like 2013-ish, and then by 2015, you go from nobody to second at nationals. I mean, how huge was that for you?
Yeah, dude, it was really cool, man. Yeah, like I was saying, like the transition was quick. So like the, I guess 80% of downhill racing came relatively easy. And then I was racing, I think I did one Cat 2 race, which was like novice. I think I won that. And then I moved up to Cat 1, which is like expert. And I think I did 1 year of North Star, like just local downhill races, and took like third in the series. And one of my homies, Ray Charles, funny enough, sick name Ray Charles, but
Yeah.
he was huge in the mountain bike world of like the kind of Bay Area. He's from Oakland and had this like squad of dudes that were just mountain bikers from the Bay Area, would ride down there and come up to North Star. And he kind of took me under his wing and bought me a brand new V10 and like let me do this dream build on it, which
Ray
is
Charles, man,
yeah,
visionary.
yeah, such a G.
It's time for my second round of sponsors, and I'm going to start things out with Outdoor Research. I've been using OR products since I moved to Seattle almost 25 years ago because they outperform everything on the market. I mean, they build their products to perform in the wet and soggy cold weather of the Pacific Northwest. And when you live where we do, you need to have the best in class. While OR has always been known for building industry-leading gear for mountaineers, skiers, and snowboarders, they've gone all in on an award-winning bike line that FreeHub describes as Outdoor Research has once again raised the bar, offering riding gear that's not just functional but also stylish and durable. That meticulous design and thoughtful engineering of the Freewheel collection have the power to transform the mountain biking experience. So high praise, and Outdoor Research is doing a lot of things on the athlete side. While they launched with an incredible team, they had the Van Steenbergen brothers, Georgia Astley. This year, they've added Casey Brown, Carson Storch, and others. And between the athletes and the events they support, while OR might be new to the bike world, they've always lived it, and there's not many brands doing what OR is doing in the world of bike. To see the new products and what the hype is all about, head on over to OutdoorResearch.com. My final sponsor is Stanley, the iconic Northwest brand that invented the category of keeping things hot and cold over 100 years ago. You remember Stanley from your grandfather's green thermos that kept his coffee hot forever when he took you out on adventures. Well, Stanley still makes that bottle and so much more. Think tumblers, water bottles, barware, camping utensils, coolers, vacuum bottles. There really is something for everyone at Stanley. And between the unique colors and the collaborations that Stanley's doing, there really is something for everyone in the Stanley line. And they're not going to gouge you with crazy prices. Stanley is the originator, and they pride themselves on providing you and me with the best products at the best value. And that value gets even better when you shop with my code. To use it, head on over to Stanley1913.com, go shopping, and buy a ton of stuff because, like I said, this code is 30% off. It's the best deal that Stanley offers. And when you check out, enter the code capital P-O-W-E-L-L. That's Powell 2025. So no spaces in between that. Capital P-O-W-E-L-L 2025. That's where you get your code. Thank you very much for the support, Stanley. They make the best gear in the world. You've seen them everywhere. And if you don't have one, you definitely need one. Those are my sponsors. Now let's jump back into the podcast.
So I took that bike and tried my best, and I think this is probably like my third year racing downhill, my like second really, officially. And yeah, took second in Cat 1 at National Champs in Mammoth. And then I was like, dude, we're like on the move. Like I'll turn pro next year. Turn pro and go and do my first pro GRT race up in Port Angeles. And I was always stoked because, you got to like do seeding and qualify, and that, just like once you're into like qualifying that type of, or those elements, you're like, I've made it, like this is the professional rankings. And I like, dude, just try way too hard in qualies, end up hitting a tree, don't qualify. And I actually did that trip with Mikey. And so it was cool because, still under Mikey's wing and he's showing me the ropes. And yeah, just blew it my first race, and was super bummed because I was just like, dude, like I thought I had it in the bag. I was feeling good all week. And so whatever, weekend wraps up. Mikey ends up doing really good. And we're going home and he tells us about Black Rock in Oregon. And so we stopped there. They got some pretty sizable jumps there, or at least what I remember back in the day. And that kind of like opened up my eyes to like this whole jumping side versus racing,
Like the whole free ride aspect of it. Like you don't have to worry about judges and time and that shit.
Yeah, like you can have just as much fun as you think you're having racing with just going up and hitting some jumps and having a sesh with your buddies. And that was kind of like the turning point. It literally took one professional race to be like, yep, I'm good. This is not for me. And I mean, it's no joke, like North America's got some very fast racers, and especially back then.
Dude, you were going to get smoked most likely, right? Your first year on the pro race, like you hit a tree that first event and you might have thought you had it. But like you say, there's so many talented people there who have done it a lot more than you. They probably would have smoked you that first year.
Oh, dude, I would have been absolutely smoked for sure. And like, I didn't think I was gonna like top five or anything, but like, I was like, I'm for sure gonna qualify. Like, that's not going to be an issue. I'll give it my best and like see where I stand, type of thing. And yeah, didn't even didn't even get that chance. And but it kind of made me realize that like it had been so not like easy, but it came so quick, coming up through this whole like racing side of downhill. I didn't even think about how much work it takes to be a top downhill racer. I thought it was just if you have the talent, eventually you're going to be one of the fastest racers.
Yeah.
But forgot about the whole like training side and all of that. But yeah, so it was actually a kind of a great fail, I would say.
But it plants the free ride seed of like, this is the direction you're
Exactly.
going to go in your career. There's content. There's so many different things I can do. And that's really where you're going to make your money in biking. And money is something that I talk about a lot of times in the podcast. I'm going to get it out of the way here. And by the time it's time for sponsors to look at you, it's like you have the image. We talked about it before. It's like you have personality, you have style, and then you have the dreads that make you instantly recognizable in a cool way. I like, who was your first sponsor that kind of realized that like this is a guy we want to have on the program?
Dude, honestly, it's funny because I don't know. At that time, I always think back to like how stoked I was with any sponsorship that I got. Like we had, what was it called? Hook It, like Sponsor House. And you make this profile and you put your results and whatever. And then you could fire them off to however many companies. And these companies give you, oh, you get 40% off, you get 60% off, whatever, this and that.
So you were working for
And
discounts.
yeah, I'm just hunting discounts thinking that like they're real sponsorships, but in reality it's I'm just getting discount codes, you know?
Yeah, the companies are still
So
making their money. You're not getting any
yeah, oh yeah.
benefit.
Right. I'm not talking to anyone that like actually I mean maybe, if I blew some minds and did something crazy, I'd get to the right people, but yeah, with those things a lot of times you're not talking to anyone that's really like a team manager or whatever. It's just like marketing guy or whoever that is just has to deal with the hook and sponsorship program. So go through a couple years and I'm hunting down sponsors, and thankfully my dad taught me a lot about just treating it like a business and going after sponsors from my flat track days. And, when I was a kid, we'd have resumes built and he would have me like find what companies that I was stoked on. And we would literally like mail them out. I'd put the stamps on the envelopes and write in the addresses and whatever and get the contracts back and, whatever. So took that in for knowledge into the mountain bike world, and I'm getting, some things here and there, but nothing like official, until I think I got sponsored by Deity, and Deity was probably like my first real sponsorship. That was through their grassroots program, and met Eric and Sadie, and they were awesome. They're the owners of Deity, and that was like my first real like connection into the mountain bike world. So yeah, that was sick. And yeah, I kept trying to fire it off. And I just remember talking to Zink, and thankfully, we're all, he's from the same area, grew up in South Lake and Carson, lived in Reno at the time. And I'm just like the Grom in the North Star parking lot, just like asking him how to get sponsored,
Yeah.
And he pretty much just laid it out and was like, dude, if you're in this for like the sponsorships and the money, like you're in it for the wrong reason. Like if you love doing it and you're good at what you do, like the sponsors will come, and when it rains it pours. And so I was like, wow, like maybe I am just like taking this moto mindset, trying to enforce it too quickly into this mountain bike thing. And I just need to like honestly just get better at riding my bike, because what do I even have to offer right now to a brand, like why they should even sponsor me? So kind of like went back to the drawing board and just focused on riding. And at the time, that's like when Fest Series came out.
And that's the
And
big break, right? Like you get invited to Cruise Fest, you get like invited to be a digger almost, and that your personality, your style there, like you make like 100 friends, and that's kind of the big moment for you, right?
dude, yeah. And it's crazy because it goes all the way back to my moto days. And So where Cruise Fest was held was at Eric Swan's house, which his roommate was my motocross trainer. So when I was like 12 to 16 or 12 to like 18, his name is Adam Miller. He was my moto trainer. And so he lived at Eric Swan's house. And it was just like the randomest connection, I guess, that where they were holding Cruise Fest, like I knew the owner of the property. And Eric Swan had always he invited me out the year before because he knew that I was getting into mountain biking. And he was like, dude, like these crazy dudes hold this event on my property. You should come check it out. And I actually tried to go the first year, which is funny. And he had a code on his gate, and it's like deep in the Santa Cruz Mountains. And so I drive from Gilroy out there. It's probably like an hour drive. Go deep into the woods, get to the gate, and there's no service. I don't know the gate code, and I had to turn around and didn't even get to hang out the first year. But yeah, fast forward to the next year, I hit up Kyle Jamison and was like, hey man, like, you know, I know we don't know each other, but I'm from Gilroy. Like, you guys are from Santa Cruz. Like, I know you're doing this thing at Swan's house. Like, I just want to come help dig if I can. And yeah, thankfully, him and our dog let me come out and dig with them. And that kind of like started just the relationship. And I wasn't even trying to ride Cruise Fest because in my mind, that was like crazy. You know, I just wanted to like,
You want to be a part of it, right?
Yeah, just be a part of it, get my foot in the door. And we dig for a couple days. And it was funny. I mean, I'm sure they don't care at this point, but we had this funny kind of connecting point, and we're digging through the day, and they're like, yo, we're going to take a break and, you know, grab some lunch, just chill for a bit. And so we take a break, and they're like, hey, you want to come hit the bong? And I'm like, yeah, but like, I got my own bong. I brought it with me in my truck, and like, I smoke tobacco like with my weed. So like,
in a bong?
You know, yeah.
Weird. Your lungs must be so strong.
Oh, dude. Yeah, they're called moles or mooks or whatever, you know, wherever area you're in, there's always a different name for it. Chops. Yeah.
I mean, I love spliffs for a long time, but not.
Yeah, it's like, spliff and a bong. So I'm like, yeah, like I'm just going to smoke out my bong because mine's all gross. I smoke tobacco out of it. And they're just like, no way, like we smoke tobacco out of our bong too. Like, come smoke. And we're just like, oh my God, like this is sick. And yeah, so connects through just digging and smoking weed. And then we finish up, and I was digging there for a couple of days. And then like the last day, I think I had to get back home for work or something. And they're like, hey, we're going to go ride some trails tomorrow. And I don't know if this was what it was, but I've always thought that it was like a tryout type of moment where they were testing me and seeing how good of a rider I was. Because this trail that they took me on was pretty techy, just like jumpy, quick jumps, like the Supercross trail of mountain biking. And yeah, clean the trail, get through it, end up losing them at the top because they just know the trail. I have no clue. And drop in 10 seconds in, I'm like, dude, I have no clue what's coming up. But just kind of trusted the trail speed and ended up getting through. We do a couple laps that day, and we're packing up to go home. And they are like, hey, so you're like, you coming back for the event? And I was like, holy shit. Like, yeah, if I can. And they're like, yeah, we'll come back. It's whatever dates. And yeah, that was like the start of it all.
And then from there, it's like, do they extend the invitation for you to go to Europe after that?
Yeah, which was crazy. So through Cruise Fest, I show up there, like back then, each event, you know, is by rider for the rider type thing. And everyone, whoever was putting on the events would like set up rider lodging. So I show up in Santa Cruz at the rider house, and I just see like everyone I've seen on the internet. I'm like, what the hell am I doing? You know? And go through, you know, we start riding and end up like, you know, doing decent at the event, end up meeting like all of my heroes pretty much.
I mean, is that where you become good friends with Cam, or were you already tight with him?
So Cam wasn't even at that event that year. We were already semi close, but you know, he was on such a different level.
He was like the king of the sport at that time.
Still is.
Yeah.
and we're still like not on the same level, but can relate a little better nowadays. And so, yeah, rewind, like thankfully again, like with Mikey introducing me to Cam, we would ride here and there, but it was mostly only like if Mikey was going to ride with Cam that day, Mikey would invite me and then I would like get to go ride with those dudes type of thing.
Yep.
So yeah, we weren't super close homies back then. And he wasn't a cruise fest but yeah, end up having KJ and our dog kind of just like go under their wing for the event. But I end up like casing one of the jumps, getting a gnarly concussion, and having to like leave the event or like a couple days before it ended. And I get back to my mom's house back in Gilroy, and I'm like, that was it. Like I had my one shot, and it was ruined, you know?
Yeah.
And so I'm like super bummed. And I think I was still in Gilroy. Like I was there for like a week after still. And Kyle calls me and is like, hey man, like Loose Fest is coming up and Nico Vink, he puts on that event and Nico was at the event at Cruise Fest. And Nico and KJ were like my like main idols when I first started mountain biking. Like I don't know, like maybe they were the first videos that I came upon, but like just huge Kyle Jamison, huge Nico Vink fan. So I was like super stoked to ride with Nico at Cruise Fest. And I guess he was stoked on my riding and he extended the invite through KJ and yeah, went to Loose Fest in Belgium. I think it was like 2016, which was like the next Fest Series stop that year. And yeah, that was a whole nother experience. But yeah, I was stoked to go get the invite because I thought that call from KJ was going to be like kind of a negative phone call, you know?
Yeah, totally. Because yeah, you were there, you had your shot, you ended up leaving, and it was like, man, we wanted you to do this, but you couldn't really hang, but that didn't really happen. So that worked out for you well. I somehow got on the money conversation and we somehow got off of it. I'm going to get right back to it because we're kind of getting towards the end of where I like to do podcasts at these timing things. So some stuff's going to get skipped. But in thinking about the money stuff, you get some sponsors early on, whatever. But who are the brands that pay you today?
So today, I mean, dude, with the industry, I really only get paid by Outdoor Research right now.
Okay. You get free bikes from Specialized? Is that the deal there?
And yep, and ride for Specialized with bikes. But unfortunately, I mean, a combination of just the economy and how the mountain bike industry is and my past injuries, like, dude, I can't lie. Like, I haven't really done much in the past couple of years. So I don't really have a huge reason for these sponsors to keep paying me and is completely understandable, you know? So thankfully, ride for Outdoor Research right now and have been a part of helping them develop their mountain bike line. And that was 3 years ago now, which is crazy. I actually just signed with them again yesterday.
Oh, sick. Congrats, man.
Yeah, thank you. So stoked to still be a part of that team. Dude, they're such amazing people.
Oh, like, dude, I love them. They sponsor the podcast as well.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, you know Chris King.
Yeah, he's an amazing dude.
Yeah, dude, just the whole team over there, they get it. They're just rad.
And they put their money where their mouth is, too. It's like they're passionate about it, but then they back it up with like, we're going to do this mountain bike thing. And it's not like they're just going to come in and they're going to buy a little bit of market share. They're going to sponsor the biggest events. They're going to get a bunch of different athletes and they're going to put a shit ton of money into it. And they did it on like all angles from the second they walked in, and it's been working.
Dude, yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like at Crankworks this year, we were talking about just the first year that we all pretty much walked into Crankworks like we're this new brand, don't even have one official piece of the mountain bike line, but we're here and we're here to stay. And yeah, fast forward 3 years and doing great and have like one of the most stacked mountain bike teams. And yeah, it's going awesome and couldn't be more stoked to where it's sitting at today.
And then my other money questions are that I guess, so there's a while where you're working at like the ski shop and you're riding all spring and summer, but is there a time when you don't have to work at all and you can just focus on mountain biking, or have you always had to have another job?
So right now I am just doing the mountain bike thing.
Okay, time.
Yeah, and not the most lucrative choice, but my window is getting smaller and I made that choice like 2 years ago. and was like, this is the dream, right? Do what you love and get paid to do it and not work a regular 9 to 5. So I took that leap and have been making it work, thankfully. But yeah, so it's been a couple of years, and I literally live, I don't know, a 30-second walk away from the ski shop, Village Ski Loft.
Okay.
So I'm literally there probably 5 out of 7 days of the week, just hanging out, talking to the boys. And, Elko there, he's like family to me, and a lot of the dudes there that work there. We've gone through a lot together and just have been working there for a long time. So it's like a little family that, I have there still, which I'm super grateful for.
All right. Well, let's see where I'm going to kind of round this thing out with. When you think of projects that you're most proud of, because I mean, that's the thing is like you go to all the big contests and stuff and you're definitely there, but you're not expected to win or do anything at them. You're just kind of a personality at them who's going to ride here and there and show your style, I would think. But when you think of the project that really means the most to you that you've kind of created or you've been a part of, what is that?
Like, sadly, I don't feel like I have like a project that I've done that I'm like, this is fully 100% me right here. And I've done some awesome projects that I'm super grateful to be a part of with really cool brands and everything. But like, as like a personal project, I would say that's gonna probably come in the near future here.
Okay.
But I would say just like being a part of like this whole outdoor research family has been a huge feat that has meant a lot to me, and like kind of been like that dream of 12-year-old Damon having this dream that's like, I want to do this, and like making, 12-year-old me stoked on that. So I'd say that's probably my most biggest impact I've had in my career, I guess you could say, quote unquote.
Did you have a
But
project that I don't know if it's a project you would call it a jump or whatever you would call it, but did you try to like break a record on an e-bike or something?
yeah, dude, unfortunately, that kind of is what changed my whole, I don't know, I guess my career, I guess you could say. But yeah, I had this idea where I'd jump 100 feet on an e-bike, break a unofficial world record, because I think it's still only at like 80 feet right now
Okay.
officially. And Cam, he's got a big jump at his property that he flipped, I think, at like 110 feet. So we have like a proper 100-footer out there. And I was like, dude, I've hit this thing so many times. I'll just go hit it on my e-bike. I get this e-bike, ride it for one day, go out to the property, and just totally took it for granted and didn't learn kind of like how e-bikes run. For some reason, they just ride a bit slower. It ended up hitting like probably 6 times and like coming up like 90, 95 feet and just casing the absolute shit out of the landing, but like being okay. And ended up breaking like the top two, or like cracking the head tube of one of them, and had to call it. But I was like, dude, I got this. Like, I'm going to just tighten the shit out of it. And the last jump that I went and hit, yeah, just cased it. Just barely cased. I have a video that I haven't posted or haven't really talked about like this quote unquote record, unofficial record much, but yeah, I ended up casing it, sliding out, and tearing like 7 ligaments in my ankle
Oh,
slash foot, like 4 bones. And I ended up getting stuck in my boot for 5 months because I had got staph infection, and the doctors couldn't figure out why my incisions weren't healing. And so I ended up having 3 surgeries. And finally, by the last one, they figured it out, cleaned it out, and got on the actual road to recovery there. But yeah, dude, now my ankle like pretty much doesn't work. It's there, it's attached, but it like barely moves. And
just goes up and down. Like
dude,
what's
it
this
goes
thing?
up and down, and I can lift my heels off the ground, but yeah, it's definitely not the same as it once was, and unfortunately, kind of played a huge impact on my mountain biking. But yeah, just kind of been spending the past couple of years figuring out how to change up my style a little bit, and it's been unfortunate, but it's led me to some other great opportunities, so I can't be super bummed on it.
No, and you know what? To sell clothing and to sell bikes, you don't have to be winning or doing anything like that because there are people with personalities and people that just can talk to people and really make them want to be part of something. And it seems like you're that dude. And whether you have the dreadlocks or not, you've always been that dude. So that's a pretty cool thing to have. And I think that's why Outdoor Research believes in you. And that's why Specialized gives you bikes. And, there's a whole lot more we could say, but we're not because at this point, it's time for something that I call inappropriate questions. And
All right.
I tried to get a couple of your friends to come back to me with some questions, but they were all busy and I wasn't able to get somebody because I'd normally record somebody, play you some questions, get some answers from you. I didn't do that. I decided to just ask the questions myself. So question number one for your inappropriate questions is you've been at moto events and you've been at bike events, and I'm sure you've seen crazy shit at both. And I'm sure the after parties at both have some wild stuff. And what's the craziest thing you've seen at either one of those, and who parties harder, the mountain bike guys or the moto guys?
Dude, this one's a tough one because I would say as a whole, mountain bikers party the hardest. Like, I don't know what it is, but dude, the amount of like gnarly partying times I've had with moto dudes and mountain bikers, like the mountain bikers take it. But I would say, as a lot of people would agree, if there's one moto dude that parties hard, it's Tyler Bereman. And dude, it is the absolute best time, and nobody goes home without a smile after partying with Tyler.
Huh.
But it is also provoked by a lot of mountain bikers, and yeah, it's a bad combination. But I would say, I don't know what a story is that I could share that would be appropriately inappropriate.
That's fine.
Let's just say, yeah, mountain bikers party hard.
All right, fair enough. We're going to go to question number 2. And you've seen people on motorcycles and on mountain bikes drink beer and just do stupid shit. What's the dumbest thing that you've seen there where someone's like 4 beers in and like, I got this?
Oh, dude, hands down, Colby Raha, which actually is going against my answer of mountain bikers partying hard. But Colby Raha riding his moto, looping it out into the hotel pool in Reno at the GSR was by far takes it. We had the opportunity to go ride in the parking lot. The hotel gave us the okay. We can kind of put on like this show where we hop on the motos and Harleys and do wheelies and jump the stair sets. And he literally pushed his bike through the hotel, past the front desk, took it down an elevator, convinced all of security that we were allowed to be there and do this stunt. And dude, he just wide open loops it out into a pool and drags it out. Cops come. Somehow he gets away, doesn't get arrested. And we're out partying that night. And one of us gets a call, and it's like 11 p.m., 11:30, and get a call from, like, I think it was Ethan Nell. And he's like, dude, our room keys don't work. I just got escorted down to the front desk, and we're all getting kicked out. So I think it was 20 rooms full of people for Cam's event, all got kicked out at midnight and had to figure our shit out.
That is incredible, man. Now we're going to go for your final inappropriate question, and probably like a heavy one that I shouldn't ask, but I'm going to. You're Japanese. We're in the USA. What's the worst discrimination you've ever experienced?
I think it's probably, I don't want to say a great thing, but it's been something that I've dealt with since I was 5 years old,
People saying shit.
No, dude, saying shit. And especially when you're a kid, like, dude, kids are brutal, especially when you're one of not many kids that look different from everybody else. And all I can say is it's given me probably the toughest skin. And I couldn't be more grateful for that because, that's like a tough thing that people deal with, and discrimination, and it could really get to you if you let it. But when you don't, you kind of just let it bounce off you and kind of just keep pushing forward. But honestly, thankfully, in the moto world and mountain bike world, I have not dealt with it, and it's only been a welcoming factor. And again, like going back to like growing up with Tyler, it was funny because when we were like 5, I remember hanging out with him for the first couple of times, just being so intimidated because he was this wild little kid, and I'm just this super quiet little Japanese kid. And he always, every race we went to, he would always take me around through the pits, hang out with his friends. make me go do whatever, ride bikes with everyone, and it was just like the most homey, yeah, in those regards, and couldn't be more thankful for that as well. So yeah, it's been a good thing, I guess, in the mountain bike and moto community.
I wish I would have known that. I had Tyler on the podcast a long time ago, so I have his number. I would have called him and asked for inappropriate questions. He would have been the best one. I didn't know that relationship. I knew you guys were friends, but I didn't realize you guys were that close. It's like 5 years old. You've been friends for the past like 30 years, which is crazy. But that's the podcast. And for a dude who was supposed to be a moto rider, you made a huge pivot and you learned the whole bike world and made a full career out of it at age 20, which is absolutely so hard to do, jumping headfirst into a sport when you're 20 years old and make it to the top level. And it's a testament to the fact that passion, effort, and style combined with talent and personality, when you put that in the right direction, it can make a great life for someone. In this case, that's you. I thank you for sharing your story, and I thank you for your time.
Thanks, man. I appreciate being here.
So that was time with Damon Iwanaga, and what a cool story. I don't think I've ever had a person on the show who went all in on a second sport after they didn't achieve success in their first endeavor and actually make it. And that's what Damon did. And based off our chat, it wasn't hours in the gym that helped him get to the next level. For Damon, bong rips with tobacco seemed to help open doors for him. And while drugs aren't always the smart choice, in Damon's case, a little weed didn't hurt. And 10 years later, he's still doing it. And I don't know if he's still doing the weed. I'm talking about he's still professional mountain biking. That's the podcast. At this point, please review me wherever you listen. It really does help the show grow. And I really do look forward to those reviews. Because when I'm feeling down, and I'm feeling down all the time lately, and I find a good review and I read it, it makes me feel really good about myself. And I appreciate when you do that. So please do that for me. It really does help cheer me up. Thank you for that. And most importantly, thank you for supporting my incredible sponsors who make this show happen. They are Outdoor Research, Elan Skis, Stanley, Best Day Brewing, and Liquid Force. Have a great week, everyone.